I spent all the money I earned for the past 2 years on this ring, and I got on my knees, held it up and said, "Happy 5th anniversary, Wei Wei. Marry me, I'll give you everything I have, even my life." She shoved me to the ground. "You dare propose to me with this garbage?" she said. I picked up the ring and got back on my knees. I tried again. She crossed her arms. "Ye Fan, we're done. Wei Wei, please, 5 years. Just give me one more chance." She looked down at me like I was a stranger. "You're nothing but a powerless nobody." I grabbed her wrist. My feelings were real, I said. Tears ran down my face. "The only reason I was with you," she said, "is because you look like someone else." That's when a car pulled up, white gold trim, wheels that glowed blue. It stopped right in front of us. A man in a black suit stepped out, and Wei Wei ran straight into his arms. "Shen," she called like she'd been waiting for him all along. He looked at me over her shoulder and smiled. "I leave for 3 years and you settle for this?" He picked up an apple from my cart and made it float in his palm with blue energy, the kind of power I never had. He crushed it in his fist and looked at me. "Can't awaken a single power. What a waste." Then he sent me flying. I crashed through my own fruit stand. I hit the ground face first. He stood over me and fixed his sleeves. Trash belongs in the garbage. Blood dripped into my eye. All I could think was why? Why can't I awaken like everyone else? And then through the blood and dirt, I saw it, the ring lying right in front of my face glowing. Crystal vines grew out of it, twisting and shining, reaching for the sky. The diamond swelled until it was bigger than my head. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. A thought came from somewhere deep in my mind. This land is special. Whatever you plant here will grow. A car key flashed in my mind. If I planted one here, what would come out? Golden cracks spread beneath my knees. "Grandpa," I whispered, "what did you leave me?" I went home to my tiny falling apart room and started searching for anything I could plant. An old bank card. A phone from 10 years ago. That was everything I owned. I laid them out next to my only suit, torn, patched, barely holding together. I gathered them up and smiled. These would be my seeds. I dug a small hole and buried the old phone first. The ground split open with blue light the moment it touched the soil. By tomorrow, I would know if my whole life was about to change. It changed. A brand new phone sat where I planted the old one, glowing with energy. The screen lit up, source energy phone, self-charging, beyond anything that exists today. I pulled a glowing card from the next hole, my old bank card but upgraded. I slipped on the new suit. It fit like it was made for me. I held the phone against my chest and closed my eyes. It all worked. Anything this land touched came back better. I looked toward the city. This phone alone had to be worth a fortune. I found a buyer in the back streets. He stared at the phone like it came from another planet. "Where did you get this?" he asked. "You don't need to know," I said. 5 million. 5 million. I could sell fruit for 100 years and not make that. Tears hit my face before I could stop them. First thing I did, walked into the most expensive real estate showroom in the city. And there they were, Wei Wei and Ye Shen right in the lobby. "Isn't that the poor fruit boy who got dumped?" Shen said. He grinned at me. "Here to buy a house? You can't even afford a toilet in this building." Wei Wei covered her mouth and laughed. "Don't be so mean, maybe he sold a kidney." I kept my head down. Not because I was afraid, because I was done explaining myself to people like them. I turned to the building model. "I'm buying this place today." A sales agent rushed over, not for me. She went straight to Ye Shen. "Let me arrange the VIP room for you, Mr. Yi," she said with a bow. Shen waved her off. "No rush, I want to watch the show first." The agent turned to me and crossed her arms. "This is not the kind of place for just anyone." "Why waste words on a fruit seller?" Shen said, not even looking at me. Something inside me shifted. "I was blind to ever care about you," I told Wei Wei. She didn't even blink. "A dog like you has no right to talk about me." She raised her hand and a ball of energy floated above her palm just to remind me what she had, and I didn't. She pointed at the door. "Stop making a fool of yourself and get out." I was done being quiet. I was done being small. The agent explained the VIP tiers. Ye Shen held glory rank, the second highest. No one had ever reached the top. I looked her in the eye. "Today, I'm becoming the supreme member." Ye Shen pointed at me and laughed so hard the whole lobby heard it. Wei Wei shook her head. "You brag like a clown. Is it fun? Some people are born at the top," she said. "You will never reach them, no matter how hard you try." She took Shen's arm and looked back at me. "In every way possible, I would never choose you." I stayed patient because of what we had, I said, "but that doesn't give you the right to crush my pride." Shen stepped forward, still smiling. "You? Pride? That's the funniest thing I've heard all day." The agent screamed and pointed at the door. "Security, throw this man out." 2 guards grabbed me by the arms and forced my head down. Shen leaned in close. "Trash is trash, Ye Fan. You'll never rise above it." Then the room went bright, so bright that everyone stopped moving. Someone walked in through the light, and every head in the building turned. She stopped right in front of us. Her eyes moved from the guard to the agent, and then to me. I had never seen anyone look that calm and that dangerous at the same time. "Let him go," she said. The guard dropped me before she finished the sentence. The agent was already in tears. "Miss Su, I had no idea you knew him. Please forgive me." She didn't answer. She was staring at me like she could feel something coming from inside me that nobody else could see. I heard Wei Wei whisper to Shen. "She's an A-rank perception awakener." For the first time all day, even he looked nervous. Shen tried to recover fast. "Miss Su, our Yi group recently found a new mine. Perhaps we could work together?" She didn't even turn around. "I don't know you," she said. Then she walked toward me and held out her hand. "May I introduce myself?" "Hello, Ye Fan," she said, and I took her hand. She already knew my name. Wei Wei pushed forward and pointed at me. "Miss Su, this man is a liar. He came here bragging about buying property." I turned to the agent. "I'll take the top floor penthouse, the most expensive one." I held up my card. "Full payment, swipe it." The agent froze the moment she saw the card. Her mouth fell open. "A source energy black card," she whispered. "There are only 10 in the whole country." Wei Wei's hand flew to her mouth. Even Shen's money couldn't get him a card like this. The agent's whole attitude changed. She held my card with care and smiled. She turned toward the counter without another question. "Right away, Mr. Yi." The card touched the reader. The payment went through. The agent announced it to the room. "Mr. Yi, the top floor penthouse is yours. Your supreme membership will be ready immediately." I pointed at Shen. "One more thing, cancel all of you Shen's buying rights in this building." The agent looked at me, then at him. She didn't argue. She turned to Shen, and the look on her face said this wasn't going to be pleasant. Shen's face went dark red. "You dare cancel my rights?" he screamed. I looked straight at him and smiled. "I want you to understand something. I'm the only supreme member here, which means I make the rules." The agent stepped toward Shen. "Mr. Yi Shen, starting today, you are no longer a VIP here." His jaw was so tight, his whole face was shaking. He raised his fist and stepped toward me. But Yutong moved between us, calm as always. "I think we share something special, Yu Fan," she said with a small smile. 3 days from now, the Su group is holding a dragon banquet. I'd like you to be there." I looked down at the golden envelope she placed in my hands. A golden dragon on the front. This was not an ordinary invitation. The dragon banquet. Even the name felt heavy. Shen grabbed his own invitation and glared at me. Everyone there is someone important. A fruit seller doesn't belong. I looked at him. You seem unhappy. How about a bet? We were face to face. I could see the anger behind his eyes. If I show up at that banquet in 3 days, you apologize to me in front of everyone. Shen threw his head back and laughed like I had told him the funniest thing he'd ever heard. His grin turned cold and sharp. And if you lose, you crawl between my legs. I closed my eyes and smiled. Deal. Shen glared at me like he wanted to break me in half. I walked outside holding the invitation. Everyone at this banquet would be powerful. I needed something worth bringing. I went back to the cracked empty ground, the dead land where everything I planted came alive. I crouched down and started digging with my bare hands. The moment the invitation touched the soil, green lightning split through the earth in every direction. This light was nothing like before, brighter, deeper, far more powerful. When it faded, a golden token sat in the dirt beside the invitation. I knelt down and stared. A dragon carved in solid gold, every scale perfectly detailed. I picked it up and turned it over. Could this be connected to my grandfather? Golden energy burst around me like a wall of lightning rising from the ground. The power rushed through my whole body. I could barely keep standing. I looked down at my hand. A ball of warm golden light sat in my palm, moving like it was alive. Source energy right there inside me. Something had awakened. In this world, everyone's power was different. Shen had his, Wei Wei had hers, Yutong could sense things no one else could. But mine felt different from all of them. Was my ability the land itself? Far away, in a room overlooking dark mountains, an old man stood by the window. The Yi family's descendant has finally appeared, he said quietly. The banquet was tomorrow. I needed the right thing to plant, something truly special. I found an old antique shop tucked away in the market. I walked inside and started looking through the shelves. The owner leaned back in his chair and raised one finger. Look around, he said without getting up. Old vases, bronze pieces, dusty scrolls, everything packed tight and forgotten. I found a wooden chest in the corner and reached inside. I pulled out a rolled-up drawing and opened it. A palace floating above the clouds on top of a mountain. The detail was unbelievable. A full temple floating in the sky surrounded by golden light. I couldn't look away. Whatever this was, it mattered. And there in the bottom corner, a name. Yi Chengji, my great-great-grandfather. I held the drawing with both hands, barely breathing. Grandpa's stories were real. Yi Chengji, my grandfather's grandfather. He was the one who built the heavenly palace. The memory came back all at once, sitting under the big tree as a kid, leaning against Grandpa's knee while he smoked his pipe. He smiled and patted my head. Our city once had a great building. People called it the finest in the world. I looked up at him with big eyes, too young to understand what any of it meant. His smile faded. But it burned down, he said softly. No one ever found it again. Standing in that dusty shop, holding the proof in my hands, I said it to myself, everything he told me was true. How much for this drawing? I asked. The owner laughed. That old thing, been sitting here for decades. Nobody wanted it. 500 and it's yours. He held a magnifying glass over it one last time, then slid it across the table. I rolled it up carefully. This was worth more than he knew. If my land could grow anything from a seed, could it grow a building from a drawing? I placed the drawing into the dry earth and covered it with soil. I pressed both hands flat against the ground. By tomorrow, I would know. Golden light shot straight up from the earth like an explosion. The force threw me backward. This was far bigger than anything I had done before. When the dust cleared, I pulled a beautiful wooden box from the dirt, red and gold, covered in dragon carvings. Across the city, 2 old men sat in a private room drinking tea. The silver-haired one leaned forward. Tonight, no matter what happens at the banquet, do not be surprised. Because the Yi family's descendant has appeared, he said. His voice was low but certain. Su Zhongshan set down his teacup slowly. The Yi family, are you sure? The dragon banquet hall stood tall against the evening sky. Golden dragons along the roof. Luxury cars lining the entrance. A guard spoke into his radio at the main gate. Invitation only. No one gets in without one. Shen and Wei Wei pulled up in a gold-trimmed sports car. She stepped out in a long red dress and took Shen's hand like the whole city was watching. 2 guards blocked my path at the entrance. Your invitation, please. I don't have one, I said. The head guard stepped forward. Then what are you doing here? From inside, Wei Wei spotted me first. That pest actually followed us here, she said, smiling. Shen laughed beside her. Shen stood at the top of the grand staircase, guards on either side. Yeah, fan, 3 days apart and you've learned to dream. I looked up at him. I was told to come here and I'm not leaving. That took the grin off his face. He walked down the stairs toward me. This is the dragon banquet, not a place for someone like you. He said it loud enough for everyone to hear. He grabbed my collar and pulled me close. Say that again, he growled. He threw me to the ground. The golden token fell from my pocket and rolled across the red carpet. Every scanner at the entrance went off at once, screens flashing, alarms ringing. The head guard looked at the reading and his face turned white. I'm so sorry, sir, I'm so sorry, he said, his voice breaking. Please, come in. He fell to his knees and pressed his face to the carpet. Please forgive me. An old man near the entrance stared at the scanner in shock. That rank is higher than the Su family's own authority. Who is this person? Even the agent from the sales office was there, face pale. Who is he really? I picked up the token and walked forward. I had no idea it carried this much power, but nobody else needed to know that. 3 staff members waited at the entrance of the main hall. I walked straight toward them. Inside, a silver-haired elder held his wine and frowned. Who is this person? I've never seen him before. A woman in a black suit leaned close to him. They're saying he's an SSS-level guest. A man in a dark suit glanced back at me from his table, already annoyed. Wei Wei spotted me. What are the guards even doing? How did they let him in? But Shen just smiled. Let him in. I'll show everyone the gap between us in front of the whole room. Then the grand doors opened wide and golden light flooded through. An announcer's voice filled the hall. The head of the Su family, Mr. Su Zhongshan, has arrived. The banquet hall stretched out forever. Hundreds of guests at round tables, massive crystal lights above, every seat filled with someone powerful. Zheng Shen sat at the front in a golden chair, Yitang standing beside him. He raised his cup. Everyone, enjoy the evening. Shen walked forward with Wei Wei at his side and stopped before Zheng Shen's chair. On behalf of the Yi family, I wish you a happy birthday, Shen said, holding out a carved wooden box. He opened it. Inside lay a pocket watch, gold edges, blue stone glowing at its center. Beautiful. Nearby, an older man in a black mandarin collar suit studied the watch through his glasses. His eyes went wide. This watch boosts the wearer's power by 10%, he said. Items like this haven't been available for years. Shen stood tall, satisfied. Good eye, Elder Zhuang. The watch is just a small token from our family. He paused, letting the attention build. I also have an announcement. He spread his arms. The Yi family will offer a spirit stone mine for joint development with the Su family. The hall went silent. Shen stood alone in the center of all that quiet, and he loved every second of it. The silver-haired elder's expression sharpened. A spirit stone mine was no small offer. Young Master Yi really spent a fortune, the woman gasped. That mine is worth 100 million. Shen closed his eyes and smiled. 100 million, just to show our respect. The Ye family only wants a deep partnership with the Su family, he said. Together, we'll build the future. Then his eyes slid toward me. By the way, since when does anyone walk in here? I heard someone came by taxi. Every head at the nearest tables turned. I stood between the tables in my black hoodie, the only person here not dressed for this room. Wei Wei laughed. Yifan, aren't you supposed to be selling fruit? How did you get in here? The silver-haired elder threw his head back and laughed. A fruit seller at the dragon banquet. Everyone wants to get close to the Su family these days, the woman added, shaking her head. A man at a nearby table adjusted his tie, grinning like he had just heard the best joke of the night. Yitang said nothing. She did not smile. She did not laugh. She just watched. Shen leaned close to me. What's wrong? You have something to offer too. I met his eyes. What if I bring something better than yours? What will you do then? I said it loud enough for the whole room to hear. Shen threw his head back and laughed, long and loud, like I had told him the funniest thing in the world. Wei Wei moved to his side. Other people might not know you, Fan, but I do. Shen stepped closer. Fine. If you can really bring something better than what I offered, Shen will crawl between your legs in front of every person in this room. The grin was gone. His face was dead serious. The whole banquet watched, hundreds of guests, every table, every pair of eyes locked on us. What kind of treasure could a fruit seller bring? Someone called out. Shen stood beside me, arms crossed. He looked down at me and waited. The smirk still stuck on his face. Wei Wei pressed a hand over her mouth, laughing. Let me guess, an old broken bowl from your family? The laughter spread behind me. I ignored all of it, reached into my bag and pulled out the box. Shen spotted it and pointed. That old box is your gift? He was already laughing again. I held the box steady with both hands. Great-grandfather, today the world will see what you built. The lid was carved with the image of a palace above the clouds, dragons on each side, every line sharp and perfect. Shen sat back at his table, still grinning. He thought this was already over, but Elder Zhuang was not laughing. He leaned forward in his seat, eyes locked on the box. I opened the lid. Golden light spilled out and washed over my hands. I raised the box above my head, and the light shot straight up, filling the hall from floor to ceiling. A golden image of the heavenly palace appeared in the center of the room, massive, glowing, floating above every table. Guests pushed back from their chairs. The palace shone down on all of them, every window and stairway carved in golden light. The silver-haired elder jumped from his seat. What is this? Is that the heavenly palace? Voices called out. The one from the old legends? The heavenly palace was destroyed long ago, a man said, standing in shock. This can't be real. Elder Zhuang rushed to the table where the box now sat and bent over it, both hands flat on the wood. His glasses lit up with blue light, scanning, reading every grain of the wood. Golden lines of energy ran through the surface of the box, glowing between the carved dragons. He looked up, barely able to speak. This box is carved from a single piece of ancient spirit wood. The silver-haired elder turned to the woman beside him. Ancient spirit wood, she repeated. That material hasn't existed for thousands of years. Even a small piece is worth a fortune, she continued. A whole box made from it. The value is impossible to measure. Shen's face twisted. It's just a box, he snapped. But nobody even looked at him. Elder Zhuang turned to me, hands almost shaking. This is a gift no one in this room can match. I nodded. Of course, I said. But the box is not the real gift. I held it up for the room to see. This is just a small piece of what I brought. The real gift is the exclusive right to explore the Heavenly Palace ruins, and the secrets of source energy buried in its foundation. I spread my arms wide. The hall went completely still. No one whispered. No glass touched a table. The silver-haired elder shook his head. Compared to this, that pocket watch and the mine don't even deserve to be mentioned. They're not even in the same class, the woman agreed. The man sitting beside Shen looked sick. Even he understood what had just happened. Shen's jaw locked tight. The muscle in his cheek jumped. I turned to face him. Your gift lost to mine. You know the deal. Time to keep your promise. His fists tightened at his sides until his knuckles turned white. I stood in the center of the hall, the whole room watching, and I waited. The silver-haired elder pointed straight at Shen. This was your own bet. A man keeps his word. The woman beside him nodded, smiling. That's right, if you made the bet, you pay for it. Zhang Shen sat on his golden chair, sipping tea, watching the scene play out with sharp, quiet eyes, and Shen went down, hands and knees on the cold marble floor, and he crawled. Wei Wei's tears ran down her face. If she had known Fan would become this, she never would have let him go. Shen pulled himself back up. His face was red, his body stiff with anger. I turned to walk away, then I stopped. One more thing. What more do you want? Shen shouted behind me. Apologize. He pointed a finger at me. Don't push it, Fan. I turned to Yitang. Miss Su, you were there when the bet was made, 3 days ago. She looked at me calmly, then at Shen. There was no doubt on her face. I said if I won, Shen would apologize in front of me. I stood between them, waiting. That is correct, Yitang confirmed. Her voice was soft, but left no room for argument. Shen and I stood face to face. His body was stiff. My hands were loose at my sides. His head dropped. I apologize, he forced out through his teeth. But those eyes told a different story. This was not over, not for him. I turned and walked toward Zhengshan. Yitang stood beside his chair. Mr. Su, the Heavenly Palace site is right here in the city, in the eastern suburbs. My ancestor was the one who built it. Because of that, I hold the first right to develop the site and the land deed. Now I offer all of that to you. I held the box forward. Zhengshan reached out and took the box from my hands. His old fingers held it gently. Then his face changed. His hand flew to his chest, his skin turned white, and he collapsed. Yitang caught him on one side, the silver-haired elder on the other. Grandfather, she cried. Someone call an ambulance. The woman in the black suit spun toward me. This is Yafan's fault, she shouted. Shen pointed straight at me. Did you do something to that box? It has nothing to do with me. He turned to the crowd and spread his arms wide. Everyone saw it. A man like him should never have been let through the door. I kept my voice flat. It has nothing to do with me. Behind me, Yutang was on the floor, holding Zhengshan in her arms. Grandfather, can you hear me? Elder Zhuang reached them first, already checking Zhengshan's condition. His face went tight. A heart attack. His energy core is failing. If we don't stabilize him now, his life is in danger. Yutang looked up, tears running down her face. What do we do? Elder Zhuang stood and turned to the room. Is there a healer here, or any emergency supplies? The silver-haired man shook his head. Healers are almost impossible to find in this city, and energy-type emergency items are even harder to get, the woman in the black suit added. Then Shen stepped forward. The Ye family has connections all over Hai City. I've already sent my people. The silver-haired man nodded. The Ye family truly has the power for this. In a crisis, young Master Yi is the one to count on, the woman agreed. Shen turned to Yitang with a calm smile. Don't worry, Miss Su. Leave it to me. Then he looked at me. Ye Fan, you were so confident a minute ago, but in a real emergency, can you compete with the Yi family? Elder Zhuang leaned close to Yitang. Normal medicine will only buy a little time. Her hands pressed together in her lap, fingers locked tight. The only real answer is very pure source energy medicine, he continued. But that kind of thing barely exists in this entire city. I heard every word, and a plan started forming in my head. I walked straight toward Yitang, past the whispers and the stares. Miss Su, I need a list of the medicine's ingredients, as detailed as possible. Every single detail matters. Shen cut between us. You're wasting your time. I kept my eyes on her. I know how this sounds, but your grandfather can't wait. A nobody playing doctor, Shen snapped behind me. Miss Su, if you choose to trust me, I said, just write me the formula. She studied my face for a long moment, searching for something. I could see the question in her eyes. What could someone like me possibly do? Then her expression changed. Bring me paper and a pen, she said. Shen grabbed his own head with both hands. You actually believe him? Yu Tang handed me the finished formula. Every ingredient clearly written, but some of these are very rare, she warned. I read through the list. This was enough to work with. Give me 10 minutes. I held up my hand and turned away. I walked toward the exit, the entire hall watching my back. Behind me, Shen crossed his arms and smirked. Who does he think he is? A god? I found a side room and opened my bag. Inside was the soil. This was my only chance. I held it close and focused. My hands pushed into the dirt, steady and firm. A life depended on this. I could not fail. Then a faint green glow appeared deep inside the soil. But everything I had ever grown took a full night to finish. A full night was too long. Zhongshan would not survive that. There had to be a faster way. This soil was connected to my blood. What if I gave it more? I bit down on my thumb until it bled. The blood hit the soil, and golden light burst upward. A golden flower opened inside the bag, burning with light. It worked. 10 minutes, right on time. I walked back toward the hall. I held the golden pill out of my open palm. The medicine, I told Yi Tang. I brought it. Shen was already walking toward me, grinning. You actually dare come back? I met his eyes without blinking. Why wouldn't I? He spun toward the crowd. What I found for the Su family today is better than any emergency medicine. I brought every top doctor in High City, he announced. The doors swung open. 3 men in white coats walked in. The silver-haired man's voice shook. That's Dr. Zhou. He hasn't practiced in 10 years. The woman clapped her hands together, and the other 2 are top experts as well. Shen lifted his chin. The best doctors in the city, all here because I called. He glanced at me, eyes bright with victory. So what can you offer? Dr. Zhou has never failed a patient, the silver-haired man said. The crowd turned to me, waiting. Shen leaned against the staircase railing. Where's your medicine? Or are you too scared to keep pretending? That grin of his wide and loose, like a man who thought the game was already over. I opened my hand. The golden pill sat in my palm, still glowing. Right here. For just 1 second, Shen's confidence cracked. Then he threw his head back and laughed so hard his whole body shook. Dr. Zhou rose from his seat and walked over to examine the pill. I have practiced medicine for 50 years, he said slowly. I do not lie. He pointed down at the golden pill on the cloth. This thing is not even real medicine. Laughter filled the hall. I stood in the center of it, alone. Yi Tang came close. Yifan, my grandfather's life is at risk. If you're not certain. Her eyes were red, her voice barely steady. Please don't try. Shen was loving every second of this. How about this? He said, arms open wide. Crawl between my legs, bow 3 times, and call yourself trash. If I feel generous, maybe I'll let you walk out. I looked at him and didn't move. I don't need your mercy. His smile dropped. I raised the pill and golden light filled the room. This is better than every doctor you brought. It won't just save him tonight. It will cure him completely. The golden light washed over every table in the hall. Not a single person made a sound. Every face in front of me, Shen, Yi Tang, the woman, Dr. Zhou, all frozen in place. Shen forced out a laugh, but this time it sounded hollow. He turned to Dr. Zhou, wiping his eyes. Tell him he's lost his mind. Shut this fool up for good, he demanded. Dr. Zhou walked to Zhongshan and examined him in silence. After a long pause, the old doctor looked up. I can hold his condition steady. Shen's grin came back full and wide. But at most, Dr. Zhou continued. Turning to face the room, he has 6 months. Shen's face broke. 6 months was not the answer he wanted. Yu Tang grabbed Elder Zhuang's arm. Neither of them could speak. Dr. Zhou looked at the floor. Beyond that, I am powerless. Shen recovered fast. Stabilizing him is already enough. A cure is nothing but a dream. He turned to me with that grin. Did you hear that? He stepped right into my space. The greatest expert in the city has spoken. Old Su cannot be cured. He leaned closer. Not by you. Not by anyone. Yu Tang stood alone near the stairs, her head low. She wiped her face. I searched every doctor in High City. They all said the same. I stood still and let the room finish talking. Then I raised the pill and let the golden light speak for itself. I let a small smile through. This can cure him. Not in 6 months tonight. Dr. Zhou stared at it. An unknown pill from a nobody. And you dare claim it can cure him? Shen waved me off. If your brain is broken, go see a doctor, a real one. The whole room laughed with him. Every single table. Even the ones who had stayed quiet were shaking their heads now. A man at the nearest table pointed at me. Just a fruit seller. Does not know the basics. I let every word pass through me. None of it mattered. Dr. Zhou pushed his glasses up. This illness is one of the hardest problems in modern medicine. I have studied it for 50 years and never once claimed I could cure it. What makes you different? Shen cut in. Enough. Stop wasting words on this fool. He turned to Dr. Zhou with an open hand. Show everyone here what real medicine looks like. Dr. Zhou worked quickly. Within minutes, Zhongshan was sitting up again, his breathing steady. Dr. Zhou stepped back. He is stable. His life is no longer in danger. The hall burst into applause. Dr. Zhou stood in the middle of it, chin raised. Dr. Zhou truly lives up to his name. The woman in the black suit spread her arms wide. Another guest laughed. And that golden candy of his? Not even worth calling a joke. Yi Tang came to my side. Dr. Zhou already stabilized grandfather. Please, Yifan, just let it go. I looked at her. He did not cure anything. He only bought time. Dr. Zhou's eyes went wide. He pointed straight at me, hand trembling. It took me 50 years to reach this level. You have nothing. I smiled back at him. 50 years, and the best you can do is slow it down. The old doctor's face turned red. He tried to speak, but nothing came out. Shen stepped forward. Fine then. Let me show you what truly matters. He held up 3 fingers. Dr. Zhou's fee alone is 30 million, just to show up, and in his entire career he has never failed a single patient. But if your little pill does not work, he leaned in close, right in my face. You pay every cost, the medicine, the doctor's fee, every treatment going forward, all of it on your shoulders. He grabbed my collar and shouted it. Do you dare take that bet? He let go and stepped back, already tasting the win. The boy does not have the nerve, one of the older guests said from his table. The woman raised her glass with a smile. 30 million, can a fruit seller even count that high? Yu Tang held my arm tight. You cannot win this. Please do not take the bet. I looked straight at Shen, and what if I cure him? Shen burst out laughing. He laughed so hard he could barely stand. He grinned at me. If you cure him, I will walk the other way every time I see you, and I will bow to you 3 times right here in front of every person in this room. I held up a finger. Remember those words? I knelt beside Zhongshan and pressed the golden pill into his hand. The moment it touched him, golden light burst from his body and spread across the floor. Zhongshan's eyes opened. The pain is gone, all of it. Dr. Zhou still had a needle in his shaking hand. He could not move. That is impossible, he whispered. He rushed to Zhongshan's side. A miracle. This is a miracle. In all my years, I have never once seen results like this. He turned to me. Young man, I was blind. I could not see what was right in front of me. He shook his head. I never knew such medicine existed. Then he bowed all the way to the floor. When he stood, his voice was quiet. I have no right to call myself a master. Zhongshan held Yi Tang's hand. I feel better than I have in 10 years. Tears filled her eyes. He turned to me. Thank you, young man. You saved my life. Elder Zhuang stepped forward and studied Zhengshan closely. His expression shifted. Your energy core is not just repaired, it is stronger than before. This goes far beyond anything modern medicine can explain, he said. He grabbed his own head with both hands, barely able to stand. For a long moment, no one in the room knew what to say. I turned to Shen and let the silence sit. Well, do you accept now? He did not answer. His jaw was locked tight enough to crack. His fist shook at his sides. I stood next to him. The bet was clear, 3 bows in front of everyone. The entire banquet hall held its breath. He cannot back out now. Someone laughed from the far table. The woman leaned back in her chair. He was so confident a minute ago. Shen dropped to his knees. His forehead went to the marble floor. 3 times his head hit the stone. I sat right beside him for every single one. He lifted his face, eyes red with anger. I will remember today, every second of it. Once Shen was gone, Zhengshan came to me. Young man, what kind of medicine was that? Some things I could not share. Not here, not with anyone. My grandfather left it for me, I said, before he passed away. Zhengshan stopped. Your grandfather? He left a few things behind when he died. This medicine was one of them. The old man's face changed. He was remembering someone from a long time ago. A cold feeling ran through me. The person Zhengshan was thinking of, could it be my grandfather? No, that was impossible. Grandfather was nobody, just a farmer on a piece of dead land. I remembered the village, the neighbors standing in the road, pointing at him every time he walked to his field. What can he grow on that dirt? They used to say. Nothing. Same as always. And the kids who pushed me against the tree. Your grandfather is trash, they said. And so are you. His whole life people called him that. He never argued, never fought back. But I would prove them wrong. Grandfather, I will make that land mean something. Shen was not finished. He fixed his tie and faced the room. You got lucky tonight. That changes nothing. When it comes to real business, you are still far beneath me. This banquet exists to choose business partners, people who actually produce results. He held up a sheet covered in numbers. Last month, I made 100 million. By myself. The room went quiet. Even the guests who had just mocked him looked impressed. He threw the papers into the air. Ye Fan, do you dare match that? 100 million in 1 month, someone muttered. How could Yi Fan compete with that? The woman pressed a finger to her lips. Even she thought this bet was too much. 100 million in 1 month. He wanted to see me lose. I stood in the middle of that banquet hall and smiled. Shen's teeth clenched so hard the veins showed on his forehead. 1 month, he said. Then we settle this. He turned and walked out. Wei Wei stayed right at his side. Behind me, a man in a gray suit shook his head. Ye Fan has lost his mind. He is just a fruit seller. A woman at the next table laughed. What could someone like him use against young Master Ye? After Shen left, Yi Tang came to me. Thank you, she said softly, for saving my grandfather. I smiled. He was worth saving. She held my gaze. If you ever need help in this city, just come find me. Thank you, Miss Su. She shook her head slightly. Call me Yi Tang. Outside the banquet hall, 2 men stood in the dark. The older one wore a long coat and a hat pulled low over his glasses. Ye Fan, he said quietly. Could he be a descendant of the Yi family? His voice dropped lower. The Dark Star plan cannot have a single mistake. Watch this boy, he told the man beside him. Find out what he is hiding. If he gets in the way, end him. The younger man bowed his head. Yes, sir. The old man turned and disappeared down the hall, a strange star-shaped pin fixed to the back of his coat. The banquet was over and the streets were empty. I was walking home when 2 figures stepped out of the dark on both sides. Black masks, black gear, red energy burning in their palms. I stopped. Who are you? What do you want? The one in front leaned closer, his eyes burning behind the mask. You are already dead. Sweat ran down my face. This had to be connected to the banquet. Someone noticed me and sent killers, and I knew I could not fight them. They closed in from both sides. I needed a plan, and I needed it now. The leader formed a ball of red energy in his hand. Hold still and die quietly. I raised my hand. Wait. Then I pulled out my bank card. How much did they pay you? I will double it. Both of them froze. What are you talking about? The leader asked. I held the card higher and smiled. You risk your lives for money. That is the whole job, right? So how much was it? 1 million? 2? I will pay 5. They looked at each other. The red orb still burned in their hands. The leader raised his fist. You think you can buy us? We have professional standards, the other one added. I laughed. Can your standards pay your bills? I held a card out between us. 5 million in your account tonight. Take it or leave it. They looked at each other again. This time nobody mentioned standards. The leader's eyes shifted. Sweat was running behind his mask. How about 6 million? Deal. They dropped to their knees right there in the street. Bossy, what do you want us to do? I held a blade where they could see my face in the reflection. Go back and kill whoever hired you. Then I held up a second card, gold this time. 10 million is on this one. The final payment. Their eyes went wide behind the masks. 10 million? I walked between them with the gold card still in my hand. Sending killers after me was a very bad decision. One of them called out behind me. Wait, what if the other side raises their price? I looked back with a small smile. Ask me first. I might go higher. In a dark study across the city, the younger man knelt on the floor. The old man sat on a leather couch, cigar smoke rising above his head. Sir, the man said, his voice shaking, the killers we sent, they switched sides. The old man stood and kicked him across the chest. Useless, he shouted. You cannot even kill one person. The younger man pressed his forehead to the floor. I will send more people right away. The old man straightened his coat. No, the Dark Star must stay in the shadows. We cannot draw attention. He took a slow drag from his cigar. I will handle this differently. The younger man hurried out the door without looking back. Alone now, the old man let a smile cross his face. Your grandson is far more interesting than you ever were, Chang'an. The next morning, I stood on grandfather's land. Cracked earth as far as I could see. Those killers last night were not Shen's people. Someone else was watching me, and I had no idea who. But I could not chase enemies I could not see. Not yet. Shen came first. I would deal with the rest later. He mocked me for selling fruit, called me worthless. Fine, then I would build everything from fruit alone and make him watch. I pushed the glowing seeds into the cracked soil, one by one. The sun set behind the city skyline. The empty land stretched out in every direction. When I came back, green shoots had already broken through the dirt. Within days, full trees stood in rows, heavy with bright red apples that glowed with energy from the inside. I loaded a cart and took it to the biggest wholesale market in the city. The owner, a big man with a cigarette stuck to his lip, waved me away before I even opened my mouth. We don't take street goods here. My fruit is not normal fruit, I told him. He looked at me like I had told him the sky was green. He pointed at my cart and laughed. What could you possibly sell from that broken thing? An old woman nearby shook her head. Another one making big promises. A man behind her pointed at me. Look how poor he is. What kind of farmer is this? I said nothing. I reached into the cart and picked up an apple. Then I cut it open with a knife, right in front of all of them. The smell hit the entire market at once. Dozens of people stopped and turned their heads. The owner's jaw dropped. The cigarette nearly fell from his mouth. A woman nearby covered her mouth, her eyes going wide. An old man held a slice close to his face. I have never smelled fruit this strong in my entire life, he said. People crowded in from every direction. I kept cutting pieces and handing them out. One man took a bite and his eyes actually started to glow. This apple has source energy inside it, he whispered. He threw his hands in the air and shouted, my whole body feels different. The old woman was now first in line, cash held high above her head. Give me 10. In seconds, the whole crowd was fighting over the cart. Hands from every side grabbed at the fruit. A man shoved his way to the front. I want 20, whatever it costs. A woman screamed from the back. I will pay any price. Then the market owner pushed through the crowd and stood in front of me. A very different look on his face now. He pressed his hands together and gave me the biggest smile I had ever seen on a grown man. Brother, I was blind before, he said. Let me buy all of it. He grabbed the edges of the cart like he was afraid I would take it away. Name your price. I shook my head. No bulk deals. I raised my hand to the crowd. Apples, 500 each. First come, first served. The market went wild. Cash flew through the air, and every single piece of fruit sold out in minutes. I stood at the register counting bill after bill. 1 million in a single day. I let that number sit for a moment. Not bad for a street seller. Across the city, in a high-rise office with a full view of the skyline, Wei Wei leaned over Shen's shoulder. I've already contacted every food supplier in the city, she said. She smiled and pressed close to him. Anyone who buys Ye Fan's fruit is making an enemy of us. Her smile sharpened. He will not sell a single piece. Shen's eyes went cold. Ye Fan, I am going to teach you who gives the orders in this city. I sat on the couch with my phone, fruit piled on the table beside me. Boss Wang, I have got a new batch of top-quality fruit ready. Next call. Boss Li, remember those apples you tasted? I have more. Dead air. Excuses. Every single buyer turned me down. I lowered the phone and felt it in my chest. Shen had blocked every channel in the city. I picked up an apple from the table. The edge was already going brown. If I could not sell them soon, the whole harvest would rot. Then my eyes fell on the business card sitting next to the fruit. Black and gold. Yi Tang's name right in the center. I picked up my phone and dialed. Miss Su, I need to ask you for a favor. She did not just call back, she came in person. Yi Tang walked up to my small street cart and met my eyes. I already know everything, she said. I can offer you better sales channels, Yi Tang said, standing beside my little fruit cart. She looked around at the old buildings. Why did you pick this spot on Su family land of all places? I set the knife down and looked at her. I want Shen to know I can start from nothing and still beat him. I dropped the cut fruit into the pot. Golden energy rose from the surface like warm steam. An old woman stopped in the street and turned toward the cart. What is that smell? I held out a cup and smiled. Source energy fruit tea, free to try. She took one sip and her whole face changed. My body feels alive again. Within minutes, a crowd had formed. People pushed forward, shouting for 3 cups, 5 cups, whatever I had left. Yi Tang stayed behind the cart and watched me work. She could have left any time, but she did not. I wiped my hands on a cloth and glanced at her. Something soft in her eyes I had not seen before. Then a black car rolled up and stopped right in front of the cart. Shen stepped out, way behind him, 4 bodyguards in a line. He grinned at me. Ye Fan, you still dare show your face out here? His men fanned out across the street, bats ready, blocking the crowd. Yi Tang stepped up beside me without a word. Shen noticed her and the grin faded. Miss Su, what are you doing in a place like this? She tilted her head. Is there a problem with that? He forced a polite smile. A woman of your status, helping a street fruit seller, it seems beneath you. Her eyes went sharp. What I do is none of your business. He took a step back, hands up. That is not what I meant, Miss Su. She raised her voice so the whole street could hear. Ye Fan's cart is under my protection today. If you want to touch it, go through me. The fake smile fell off Shen's face. He pointed at the cart and gave the order. Smash everything. You would not dare. Yi Tang shouted. Shen pressed his fingers together and smiled at her. Forgive me, Miss Su. His men moved in with bats. They broke the cart apart in seconds, fruit and glass flying everywhere. I threw myself forward to stop them, but 2 of them grabbed me before I could reach the cart. Yi Tang stood frozen, eyes squeezed shut, feeling every hit. Then her eyes snapped open. Ye Fan left side. I spun just as a fist came from behind. Another one rushed in from the right, already swinging. The bat caught me across the back. I stumbled but stayed on my feet. They came from every angle. I could block one, but 3 more were already swinging. The cart was gone. Fruit lay crushed across the road, and Yi Tang stood in the middle of the mess with nowhere to move. I reached back, grabbed her hand, and pulled her behind me. I wrapped my arms around her and turned my back to the next swing. It hit my shoulder blade. Every bone in my spine felt it. Yi Tang stared up at me from my chest, eyes wide. Shen watched from a safe distance, arms folded. Miss Su, your senses are sharp, but you are just one person, protecting a nobody. His smile went cold. You will regret this. I will not stop until he is gone from the city. The black car pulled away, leaving broken wood and crushed fruit across the street. I knelt down and picked up a ruined apple. Juice dripped through my fingers. I turned to Yi Tang and held her arm gently. Are you okay? Did any of them touch you? She shook her head. I am fine, but you, does it hurt? I rubbed my shoulder and gave her a small grin. I can take a beating. A few bruises are nothing. As long as you are safe, I said. That is all I care about. Her cheeks turned pink. She looked at me but could not hold my eyes. Then she smiled, small and quiet. Thank you. I stared at the broken pieces on the ground and made a fist. Shen had money for thugs. Fine. So did I. In the backseat of the car, Wei Wei pressed close to Shen's arm. That was perfect, she laughed. That loser will never set up a stall again. Shen's grin widened. If he tries, next time I will break more than his cart. He lit a cigarette and went quiet. Something else was on his mind. 2 A-rank women he had noticed in the area. He spotted them at a traffic light and stepped out of the car, smoothing his hair back. 2 women waited at the crosswalk, one in a black kapow, one in a black bodysuit. Neither of them looked like the type you talk to uninvited. He walked right up with his best smile. Ladies, free tonight? Let me buy you a drink. The one in the kapow turned to him and smiled back, but it was not a friendly smile. She moved so fast he did not see it. One kick sent him flying across the road. Shen hit the ground hard, flat on his back. Stop, he screamed, covering his head. I will pay double 10 times. One of them pressed her heel into his chest. A chain weapon crackled with energy beside his face. The kapow woman looked down at him and shrugged. We just do not like your face. Her partner ground her heel against his jaw, chain sparking in her grip. So you are the famous Ye Shen. Blood and tears ran down his face. Who are you? Who sent you? The kapow woman adjusted her sleeve. You do not need to know. Act big again, and the next visit will be much worse. Shen dragged himself against his car, suit torn and soaked with blood. He grabbed his phone with shaking hands. Find those 2 women, I need names now. Hours later, in his office, bandage on his cheek and blood still on his lip, he slammed the desk. 2 real people and you cannot find them. His assistant spread his hands helplessly. The cameras tracked them into an alley, then they vanished. Just gone. Shen gripped the armrest of his chair. Who is behind this? Could it be Ye Fan? He shook his head. No, he could never afford A-rank fighters. His eyes narrowed. But whoever it is, I will find them. The two women stood near the door of my suite. I sat on the couch and waited for their report. The one in the Kuopao dropped into the sofa across from me and crossed her legs. All done. Her partner sipped her tea with a satisfied smile. He will need at least 2 weeks to recover. Good work, I said. They sat across from me like they belonged here, relaxed, confident, and very, very dangerous. The senior one held up her phone. I got you into a private chat group. Everyone inside is A-rank or higher. She grinned. When the pay is right, they show up fast. That was exactly what I needed. I thought about Shen, the man who sent thugs to break my cart, now bleeding on the pavement and begging. He had probably never been hit that hard in his life. The senior fighter stood and held out her hand. Pleasure doing business, bossy. I shook it. This was only the start. Her partner waved from behind the couch with a shy smile. Good night, boss. Before they could leave, the door opened, and Yi Tang walked in, standing right between my two fighters. She looked at both women, then turned her eyes to me. Her face was not soft anymore. Who are they? I did not expect her tonight. Yi Tang, what are you doing here? The senior fighter leaned on the doorframe and grinned. Oh, is this your girlfriend? This is Miss Su, I said quickly, waving my hand. From the Su family. Watch what you say. I turned to Yi Tang. They are fighters I hired to deal with Shen. That is all. The senior fighter raised both hands and smiled at Yi Tang. Relax, little sister. I am only here for the paycheck. Once they left, the room was quiet. Yi Tang turned to me. Did you need me for something? She held out a thick brown envelope with red writing on the front. Grandfather asked me to bring this, she said. Inside is a bank card and a property deed. I tried to push it back, but she held firm. If you refuse, he will not be able to sleep. I held the envelope for a second, then set it down. I am grateful, truly. But if you want to help me, be a guest on my live stream instead. Shen had blocked every buyer and every store in the city, so I decided to skip them all and sell straight to the people online. I set my phone on the table, 2 rows of juice bottles and dried fruit behind me, and went live. Good evening, everyone. I have 2 new products tonight. I picked up one of my special apples and pressed the blade in. The whole fruit lit up blue, light spilling across the table. The chat went crazy. Comments poured in faster than I could read. I held the glowing apple up to the camera. This is Source Energy fruit. One bite clears your mind and fills your body with power. Then Yi Tang stepped into the frame beside me, and the whole chat exploded. I handed her a bottle and smiled. And tonight I brought a very special guest. Yi Tang took a sip and her eyes went wide. I feel so much better already, like my whole body just woke up. The chat filled up in seconds. Is that Miss Su? If she says it's good, the quality is real. Orders flooded in, one after another. The screen could barely keep up. Ye Shen could block every store in the city, but he could not block the people. Across town, Yi Shen stared at his phone from behind his desk, the bandages on his face still fresh from the beating. He threw the phone at the desk, paper scattered, glass broke. His man stood frozen by the door. His jaw was locked so tight his teeth looked ready to crack. He jabbed his finger at his man. You still haven't found those 2 women. And now that kid just sold 300,000 in one live stream? His voice dropped low and cold. Destroy it. Burn all his fruit. The subordinate kept his head down and said nothing. He knew better. That evening, I was lying on a flat rock in the wasteland outside the city. The detection orb beside me started to glow. That orb cost me a few $100,000, but it was not a waste. A normal camera can only record what it sees. This thing could feel source energy from 500 meters away, and right now it was picking something up. 3 men in black suits walked toward me across the cracked ground. The big one laughed. Just a piece of dead land. The leader kept his voice flat. Boss said the real job is to beat the kid bloody. All 3 powered up at once, fire in one man's fists, wind blades in another's. Source energy users. I sat up against the rock and smiled. I opened the private fighter chat and posted a bounty. 3 targets, 1 million each, 5 minutes. The replies flooded in before I could lock my phone. On my way. Got it. Boss pays well. I leaned back and closed my eyes. Nothing left to do but wait. The senior fighter dropped from the sky with a gun in each hand. Coming here at night to steal crops? Really? The big thug froze. Sweat rolled down his face. The junior fighter stepped out next, spinning her chain with a soft smile. You're already here, don't leave so soon. A silver-haired swordsman tore through the air with his blade already drawn. 2 more arrived right behind him, fighting over who got to go first. This job is mine. I was here first. Then 2 more women walked in, one carrying a spear, one barefoot in a purple dress. Golden lights circled around the barefoot one's ankles as her power woke up. The thugs looked around and the color drained from their faces. Every person here was A-rank. I scratched the back of my head. Try not to kill them, just leave them breathing. My fighters moved in, and the thugs had nowhere left to go. Blue energy slashed through the first one's legs before he could take a step. The senior fighter cracked her whip and caught the second one mid-charge. A chain wrapped tight around the third one's ankles and yanked him off his feet. One of them tried to swing back, but the swordsman blocked his blade without effort. The thug turned his head and found the silver-haired one already behind him. It was over. The lightning fighter stepped forward, blue sparks cracking in his hand. The spear woman drove the last one into the dirt with a single swing. He flew backward and crashed into a ditch, limbs up like a flipped chair. The senior fighter sighed and closed her eyes. Didn't even get our turn. The junior fighter coiled her chains slowly, looking just as bored. If anyone else shows up, I told him, handle it the same way. All 6 fighters stood in a line. The spear woman grinned. Next time you have something fun like this, call me first. I looked down at the 3 men in the dirt, not dead, just very, very broken. Ye Shen, you hit first, so do not blame me for what comes next. I crouched beside the leader under the moonlight. Ye Shen sent you. The man's face went white. How did you know? Please don't kill me. He was sobbing now. I was just doing a job. He paid me. I followed orders. I had all 3 of them tied to chairs out in the open. My request is simple, I said. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. I held it up, camera facing all 3. Each of you 1 sentence. Make it good and I let you go. They looked at the phone, then at each other. The leader's lips were shaking. This isn't right. But the big one went first. Ye Shen is a dirty, black-hearted boss. He leaned into the camera. He cheats every business partner he works with. 30 million in payments, he held them back for 2 full months. The suppliers sat outside his office every day, begging for their money. And last year, a worker was 3 days late on a project. Ye Shen cut 8 million from the contract. I sat on the ground and recorded every word. This was better than I had hoped. I was grinning ear to ear. That was great. I'm satisfied. I leaned forward and patted one of them on the shoulder. Now, how about you say all of that again? Live to 100,000 viewers. The leader's face twisted. He understood what that meant. All 3 of them went pale at the same time. Too late, I had already switched the live stream on. Over 100,000 people watching, and the comments were going wild. Somewhere across the city, a man in glasses watched my broadcast from his desk with a quiet, knowing smile. Ye Shen's assistant ran to him in a panic. Should we get the platform to shut the stream down? Ye Shen's eyes were bloodshot. The whole internet already saw it. It's too late. Then the phone calls started coming in, one after another. The assistant turned to him, face drained of color. Waxing Group just ended the partnership. His phone screen lit up with new messages. None of them were good. Tears ran down the assistant's face. Ding Sheng Tech, gone. Black Capital, gone. Ye Shen sat perfectly still, staring at nothing. 7 more companies, the assistant choked out. every single one terminated. Ye Shen grabbed every paper on his desk and threw them at the wall. He screamed until his voice broke, papers falling around him like snow. Then he sat down, folded his hands, and stared at the ruin of his own office. The desk phone rang. Ye Shen picked it up. A voice he did not know said, "Having a rough night?" His grip tightened on the phone. "Who is this?" The line was quiet for a long moment. "What matters," the voice said, "is what I want from you. Ye Fan has a source energy secret. Find out what it is and I will give you all the resources you need to rebuild. You have no way out. Turn this down and you stay a joke forever." Ye Shen held the phone long after the voice stopped. He stood under the chandelier and said nothing, but the answer was already forming in his head. Later that night, my phone rang. I checked the screen and smiled. Ye Shen, calling me directly. "Ye Fan," he said. "One last bet. Do you dare?" His face filled my screen. 1 week from now, the Haicheng Source Energy Expo. We each bring our best product. The audience and the experts vote. Whoever wins, wins everything. His smile was sharp and mean. The loser does whatever the winner says. "You dare?" "I accept." Ye Shen stood tall in his office and laughed. "You only have one piece of dead land. I have the entire Ye family empire behind me." He thought he had already won. "More than enough to crush you." Ye Shen gritted his teeth on the other end. 1 week. The expo. "Don't be late." I ended the call and looked at the screen for a moment. The night sky was full of stars. I looked up and thought of Grandpa. Blue energy cracked through the ground beneath my feet. I was going to show every one of them who the real waste was. This land, this dry broken ground that nobody wanted, was going to be my weapon. The next morning, a land agent came with his clipboard. 300 mu of land around my plot, 12 million total. I picked up the pen and signed without thinking twice. Now it was time to grow the real thing. Source energy seeds. Small, green and glowing with life in my palms. I let a single drop of my blood fall onto the cracked earth, and the dead land woke up. Green shoots pushed through every crack and stretched toward the sky. In minutes, the field was full of spirit plants up to my chest. I closed my eyes and let it sink in. Now I needed Yitang's help for what came next. I brought her a small potted spirit plant at her home. "This is for normal families," I told her. "One pot cleans the air in a 10-meter room and releases a tiny amount of source energy. Helps people sleep better." She held the pot and looked at me carefully. "Can normal people even afford this?" "Free." Her eyes went wide. "Free? I don't need money from this. I need the public on my side when the expo comes." Yatang nodded. "Then use the Su family's marketing network, all of it." "You saved my grandfather," she said. "This is the least I can do." "But the expo requires 5 products," she added. "What about the other 4? I laid everything out on the table and she leaned in to look. First, a source energy shield bracelet. Silver with gold patterns, humming with power. I held it up. A normal person presses the button, and this blocks a full hit from a C-rank ability user. Yitang stared at it like she forgot how to breathe. Second, a temperature control shirt. Wear it and your body heat adjusts on its own, even at 50 below zero. Third, a translation fruit. I held up the golden apple. 1 bite and for the next hour you can understand and speak any language in the world. And fourth, a source energy fruit drink. I held up the glowing blue bottle. 1 bottle gives a normal person F-rank abilities for a short time. Yutang stood across the room, perfectly still. "That's impossible," she said. "F-rank is the lowest level, but normal people can never have abilities at all. Even the lowest rank. Nobody has ever made that possible." "Have someone test it," I said. "Anyone you trust." Her eyes were shining. "If normal people could have abilities, even for a moment, the entire world would change." She grabbed her phone without another word. "I'm calling the military's purchasing department right now." Yutang set up a meeting fast. The officer looked at the items on the table. "I trust Miss Su's word, but rules are rules." He stared me down. "We test first, then we talk price." They tested everything. The bracelet blocked an energy blast. The fruit let a soldier speak foreign languages. The shirt kept a man warm in a freezing chamber, and the drink gave a normal soldier enough power to smash through a heavy bag. The officer's face went pale. "These are all real." I leaned back in my chair. As you can see, he straightened up and looked at me like I was a completely different person. "First order, 100 million. He reached out his hand and I shook it. 100 million, not bad for someone the whole city called worthless a month ago. Yutang was watching from the side with a soft smile. "How many more surprises do you have?" News of the military deal spread fast. When we stepped outside, ability users were already lining up. Guards stood at every door and the crowd filled the stairs. A massive A-rank fighter pushed to the front, red eyes glowing, muscles like stone. He wanted to work for me. A young man with lightning sparking between his hands shouted over the crowd, "Boss Yi, I can handle every power problem you've got." And an old man in white robes bowed his head. Ice crystals bloomed across his shoulders. The ability users kept coming, but then a different kind of attention arrived. A woman in a red dress walked toward me with a smile that promised trouble. She poked my chest with one finger. "C-rank psychic. I can help you relax while you work." She leaned in close enough for me to smell her perfume, way too close. Before I could step back, she slipped a card into my pocket. Behind me, I could feel Yitang staring at the back of my head. Then a blonde woman in a leather jacket grabbed my arm. "A-rank healer. If you ever get hurt, come to me first." More women were closing in from every direction. I could barely turn my head. A short-haired girl jumped onto my other arm. "Speed type, wherever you want to go. I can get you there before anyone else." She was not letting go. This was getting completely out of control. Behind the ability users, a crowd of regular people pushed forward, waving letters and business cards and screaming my name. Businessmen were grabbing at my sleeves. 20 fighters, all C-rank or higher. "They're yours." Yitang raised her voice. "Everyone, please step aside." The guard started clearing a path. She took my arm and pulled me through the crowd. I caught the tension in her jaw. The 3 women behind us were not done. "Is Miss Su getting jealous?" the one in red asked, and the others laughed. The girl in the Kuai Pao grinned. A man like Boss Ye having a few women around him? That's perfectly normal. Yitang's expression did not change, but her grip on my arm tightened. "Does Miss Su want to keep him all to herself?" Yutang turned and spoke very calmly. "I'm just reminding everyone that Boss Ye's time is valuable." The Kuai girl waved a card in the air. "My personal number is right here. Call anytime." The card had a bright lipstick mark on it. She was not being shy about her intentions. The girl in red slid another card into my hand. She leaned in and whispered, "This one is only for you." Then she winked. I could feel the blood rushing to my face. By the time we reached the car, my arms were full of cards and I was surrounded by women on every side. I dropped into the seat and looked down at the pile of business cards in my hands. 1 month ago, I was the family's trash. Now A-rank fighters were competing to serve me, and beautiful women were lining up just to hand me their numbers. Life is strange. I looked up through the window, and my eyes got wet. "Grandpa, your grandson finally made it." Yitang glanced at me from the driver's seat. "So what are you going to do with all those cards?" I looked down at the stack. She was trying to sound casual, but I caught the edge in her voice. "Those women left you their numbers," she said. "Eyes on the road. Are you planning to call them?" I grinned. "Miss Su, are you jealous?" She was definitely jealous. I could not stop smiling. Who is jealous?" She turned to me so fast the car almost swerved. Her whole face was burning red. Steam was practically coming off her ears. I held my hands up and laughed. Okay, you're not jealous, I believe you." Then I held up the whole stack and tossed every card onto the dashboard. "I don't need any of these. Yours is the only number I need." She went quiet for a second. Then she cleared her throat. "But after today, Yu Shen will know your expo products in advance." I leaned back, closed my eyes and smiled. That's the whole point. She looked over at me confused. He'll find out what we showed the military and think he's already seen my best work. I want him to feel safe. I want him to believe he's already won, because if he stays careful, I can never crush him properly. That night, back on the dead land, my little shack glowed under a heavy sky. On my workbench sat things Yi Shen could never imagine. Source energy chips, a helmet, a robotic arm, an energy face mask, and devices that belonged to the next century. These were the real products for the expo, my secret weapons. And Yi Shen had no idea they existed. Across the city, Yi Shen leaned back in his chair and smirked at his screen. Yifan, you think you can fight me with those little toys? Across the city, Yi Shen's assistant stepped through the office door with a report. Sir, the mysterious backer just sent another payment. Yi Shen sat back in his leather chair, eyes sharp. The backer wanted results. New technology, real weapons. He picked up his phone. The voice on the other end was flat and cold. I poured a fortune into you, Yi Shen. You know what happens if you fail? Yi Shen gripped the phone tighter. I already have his expo lineup. Once I crush him, I'll buy everything he owns. The expo is tomorrow. Everything for the expo was ready except for one last piece. I needed a sports car. I walked into a model shop and asked the clerk to show me the best toy car they had. He led me to a display case near the back wall. A silver sports car model sat behind the glass, small, heavy, and perfect, down to the last detail. The clerk held it up. Imported, all metal body, 1:18 scale, only 3 in the whole city. I turned it over in my hands. The weight felt solid. How much? 80,000, he said. I handed him my card without thinking twice. He swiped it and handed it back with a polite smile. The model was excellent, but compared to Yi Shen's hover car, it was still a level below. I needed to add something special. That's when I noticed a rough gray stone on the shelf behind the counter. What about that rock? Clerk shrugged. Waste material from a deep-sea mine? Nobody knows what it's for. 10,000 if you want it. Deep-sea mine. That got my attention. If I planted it in my field, there was no telling what might come out. I'll take it. I held the stone up to the light. It was cold and much heavier than it looked. The system filled in the rest. This was a mimic core born deep underwater where source energy veins grow like crystal forests. Source creatures use these cores to disguise their organs. It could change its shape and color, and it was extremely rare. I held the toy car in one hand and the crystal in the other. A wild idea was forming in my head. What would happen if I planted them both at the same time? That night, I pressed the car and the crystal into the cracked earth, and a pillar of golden light shot straight into the sky. Source energy ripped through the ground in every direction, splitting the cracks apart like veins of fire. My eyes burned gold. This reaction was 10 times stronger than anything I had done before. What on earth did I just create? Golden lightning climbed into the sky and spread across the wasteland as far as I could see. I wiped the sweat off my face and smiled. By morning, I would know. And there it was, a full-size silver sports car sitting on the cracked earth under the morning sun. I stared at it. My brain needed a few seconds to catch up with my eyes. It was real. A full-size car with faint golden lightning still running through its body. I reached out slowly, almost afraid to touch it. My fingertips met the hood, and golden lines lit up under the metal, warm, glowing, alive. A laugh burst out of me. This was the most incredible thing I had ever made. The door lifted open on its own. The interior was dark leather, clean lines, pure luxury. It was welcoming me like it already knew who I was. I slid behind the wheel and wrapped my hands around the leather grip. It felt like it was built for me. The moment my palm pressed the wheel, golden energy flowed up through my hand and into my arm. This car was choosing its master. I lifted my glowing hand and stared at the warm pulse running through my fingers. Change color, I whispered. The entire body turned deep red in 1 second, smooth and perfect. I laughed out loud. It actually listened. Again, change again. Black rolled across the surface, swallowing the red. I was laughing so hard my stomach hurt. This thing was alive. Then the shape itself changed. The low sports car stretched and grew into a tall black SUV. I caught my own reflection. Golden stars burning in my eyes. This car had no limits. I leaned back in the seat and rubbed my chin. I need to give you a name. You carry my surname now. How about Yimai? The dashboard lit up instantly, showing a crest and a timer. It was answering me. It understood my words. This car was not just a machine anymore. Yimai rose off the ground on jets of blue energy, hovering above the cracked earth. But the expo was today. Before anything else, I needed source energy. I grabbed a gear shift. Yimai, let's go. The SUV launched across the wasteland, kicking dust into the sky behind me. Within seconds, the city skyline was already close. I pulled into Future Fuel, the most expensive source energy station in the city. Yimai had shifted back to the silver sports car by the time I parked. A man in a white uniform walked over, smiling wide. It took me a second. Li Mao from high school. We were never friends. Yeah, fan. Li Mao grinned. I heard you sell fruit now. What brings you to our station? I came to fuel my car, I said. He threw his head back and laughed like I had told the best joke of his life. I closed my eyes and waited for him to finish. Do you even know how expensive our fuel is? He said. This is the best station in the city. Only the rich come here. 1 full tank costs more than your whole life, he added. I didn't answer. I just pressed the car key. Both doors swung open straight up, like a pair of wings. Golden vine patterns lit up across the silver body, glowing warm in the sunlight. Li Mao's grin disappeared. Whose car is that? I looked him dead in the eye. Mine. He spun around, finger in my face. A fruit seller? You could never afford a car like this. You stole it, he shouted. Which rich person's garage did you rob? You have proof? I asked. Li Mao smirked at his staff. Run the registration. I'll have my answer in a minute. Enjoy your last free day, Yifan, he laughed. You'll be behind bars by tonight. His employee pulled up the search results and his face went white. Well, Li Mao snapped. What did you find? The employee swallowed. Sir, there are no records for this vehicle. Nothing at all. Every car has registration records, Li Mao stammered. How is that possible? I smiled. It's custom. The only one in the world, of course your database can't find it. Li Mao crossed his arms. Custom? Please. This car is probably just for show. I tilted my head. Then let me open your eyes. I turned toward Yimai, still gleaming silver under the station lights. Li Mao was already sweating, though he tried not to show it. Change color, I said. I stepped back and waited. The silver faded. A deep wine red spread across the body, flowing over every curve. Li Mao couldn't close his mouth. Seen enough? I said. Fill it up, the most expensive fuel you have. His voice cracked. The most expensive is pure source energy, 1 million per liter. That's already insane. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my card. Fill it, I said. Li Mao took a card with both hands and his fingers started shaking. It was a black card. His eyes went so wide I thought his glasses would crack. The screen flashed green, transaction complete, 10 million. I leaned against the pump and crossed my arms. Good service, Manager Li. Li Mao just stood there by the fuel pump, stiff and small. 10 million spent like pocket change. The man couldn't process it. The tech expo was already packed by the time I arrived. Rows of booths stretched across the grounds. Reporters filled every gap between the booths. Cameras pointed in all directions. Inside a glass case stood a full combat suit, silver armor with blue energy lines running through every joint. The #1 in tech, a reporter shouted, waving at the crowd. And there was Ye Shen, standing at the center of it all with that confident smile. An energy rifle sat under the spotlights, another one of his display pieces. 2 high-tech medical chairs stood beside it, sleek and polished. Ye Shen crossed his arms and turned toward me. "Yeah, Fan, I want to see what you can bring against all this." That's when Yimai rolled in, golden patterns glowing across the silver body. The whole crowd turned. People pulled out phones and cameras. "This car must be worth a fortune," someone whispered. Ye Shen's smile disappeared the second he saw it. He walked over and stared at the car, then at the person stepping out. I stood next to Yitang and together we walked into the expo. Ye Shen's jaw locked tight, but he recovered fast. "That car is obviously rented," he told the crowd. "My booth was just a tent with a table, a few shapes under white cloths and nothing else." Ye Shen strolled over with the press behind him. "This is all you brought? Want me to lend you some money to decorate?" The reporters behind him laughed right on cue. I stood in front of my booth and said nothing. "You think I don't know what you prepared?" Ye Shen said. I let him keep talking. It didn't bother me. Then his eyes moved past me. "Miss Su," he said, "the eldest daughter of the Su family, following this loser around. You'll regret it one day," he said, looking between Yitang and me. Yitang answered before I could. "Whether I regret it is my choice, not yours." She turned to the cameras. "Come, I'll show you the real products." She smiled at me and I smiled back. We had work to do. The expert judges had already finished reviewing Ye Shen's booth. An old professor held up his tablet and read the scores. He stood next to the combat armor. Power, A+. Defense, A+. Far above the standard. Two judges checked the full list together. Plasma weapon, A+. We recommend it for military review. Even the massage chair passed. Medical effect, A+. Fatigue recovery at 92%. Ye Shen stood tall. "Now that," he said, "is real technology." The lead judge shook his hand. "All your products passed. Congratulations." "Thank you, professors," Ye Shen replied, bowing slightly. Then he turned to address the full panel of judges. "While you're here, why not check Yifan's products too?" he said. He was still smiling, but his eyes told a different story. The older judge frowned. "You win first place every year. Nobody else comes close." "Exactly," said his colleague. "There's really no need. The rest aren't worth our time. A fruit seller at a tech expo? What could he possibly bring?" The other added. "It's a waste of time." Ye Shen stepped closer. "Do me this favor, professors. I want him to lose so badly he can't argue." His grin sharpened. "I want it to be total." I listened to every word. None of it touched me. "Ye Fan," he shouted. "Show your products if you dare." "Why wouldn't I?" said. Yu Tang and I wheeled the card out through the crowd. Reporters muttered among themselves. What could this even be? Probably just some fruit. Two men in suits shook their heads. Competing with the Ye family in tech, he doesn't know his place. The judges sighed. "Let's just get this over with. We still have reports to write." All three shuffled over to my booth without a drop of interest. The lead judge grabbed the cloth and pulled. His eyes went wide and he stopped breathing for a second. Under the sheet sat a full row of tech, a computer, processors, a robotic arm, a helmet, and a glowing crystal sphere. Ye Shen's face twisted. These weren't the products he expected to see. But the crowd didn't catch his reaction. Laughter broke out across the grounds. A reporter pointed at my table and laughed so hard he could barely hold his microphone. "You call this tech?" a man in a suit said. "You can find this stuff at any street market." Ye Shen recovered fast and joined in. "A fruit farmer bringing real tech? Not a chance." I looked at them all. "Good or not, you'll know once you try it." I held up a tiny chip between my fingers. A student in a blue jacket stepped up from the crowd. "I need a volunteer," I said. "The chip installs itself." I held the chip up to him. No pain at all. The student stared at it, nervous, but curious. I handed him a thick textbook, 800 pages of source energy theory. He opened it and flipped through every page in seconds. "Done?" I asked. He nodded slowly. "Tell me, do you remember it all?" The chip was live. Blue circuits lit up inside his eye like a second brain. "I remember everything," he whispered. "Every single page." The entire expo went quiet. Then everyone reached for their phones at the same time. I picked up the next product, a robotic leg. Source energy prosthetic. Who needs one? A man in a military uniform pushed through the crowd, leaning on a crutch. Below his right knee there was nothing but an old metal rod. "Wang Jiangguo," he said. "Retired soldier. I lost my leg on a mission 10 years ago." I knelt down and fitted the new leg onto his stump. "Give it a try, Uncle Wang." He took a step, then another. Tears ran down his face. "It works better than my real leg ever did." I held up the next item, a glowing blue face mask. "For this one, I need a female volunteer." An elderly woman came forward right away, smiling wide. I pressed the mask onto her face, and blue energy spread across her skin. When I peeled it away, she kept her eyes closed for a moment. She picked up a mirror, and the tears came. Her wrinkles had faded away. I smiled. Every product was landing exactly where I wanted. She held the mirror with shaking hands, smiling and crying at the same time. Two more items. I picked up a silver helmet. Immersion helmet. Full virtual reality. A man in the crowd raised his hand instantly. The moment he put the helmet on, he was somewhere else, standing in a sky full of clouds, a white dragon rising in front of him. In that world he held a sword. He could feel the wind, the weight, everything. When the helmet came off, he was sweating and screaming. That was the most amazing thing I've ever felt. I picked up the last piece, a small clear sphere. This one is called Sky Eye. It shot a holographic map into the air, showing the location and data of every source energy user in the city. One name stood out in red. Ye Shen, A rank, enhancement type, energy level 4772. A finger shot toward my face. "You're spying on me?" Ye Shen shouted. I looked at him calm. "That's exactly what Sky Eye does." Dr. Zhou held the Sky Eye in both hands, his face white. "This is military level technology," he said. He turned to me, sweat on his temples. "No, it's even stronger than military grade." His hands shook. "If these are mass produced, they will change everything about human civilization." I looked out at the crowd. Ye Shen stood alone in the middle, with no one beside him. I let myself smile. "So tell me, Ye Shen, who is the waste now?" He pointed straight at me, teeth clenched. "There is no way you built these yourself." Ye Wang stepped between us. "If you want to make that claim, bring proof. You need evidence before you say something like that," she told him. I turned to the experts. "Then let them take apart every product right here, right now." Dr. Zhou looked worried. "These are worth a fortune, you can't just tear them open." "Do it," I said. "If he wants to lose, let him lose with no room for doubt." After the inspection, Dr. Zhou read the results aloud, hands shaking. None of the 5 products use any existing technology. He held up the core piece, a small ring of glowing blue light. "This is far beyond anything we have today." Ye Shen stood frozen. The fight had left his eyes. An official came to our display table and looked at the results. The winner was obvious. 2 old professors walked up to me smiling. "The military and the education department are both waiting for you, Mr. Yifan. Your products, the country wants all of them," they said. I kept my face calm, but inside it felt better than I expected. By that evening, every news channel had picked up the story. Cameras, panels, experts debating my name. The headline said it all, from fruit seller to billions. The stock chart behind the anchor went straight up. The calls started the next morning. Orders for the face mask alone were booked 3 years out. An entertainment company wanted the VR helmet rights. Name your price, they said. I smiled. Then overseas dealers started calling. My desk was buried in magazines, all with my face on the cover. Yichang walked through the office doors with a tablet in her hand, looking pleased. She pulled up the order list. The military wants 3,000 sky eyes and 5,000 prosthetic limbs. The education department wants 100,000 brain chips, she added. The tablet showed the full product lineup, prosthetics, sky eye chips. Every major school in the country wanted a set. I scrolled through the chip production plan. 100,000 units going to schools everywhere. I leaned back in my chair. What about the Ye Group? Yitang checked her tablet. All of Yishen's business partners left him, and his employees are quitting too, she said with a small smile. I felt my own smile widen. He spent years pushing me down. Now I was going to buy his entire company. I stood up and walked out of the office. Then the sky eye feed on my screen flashed. Ye Shen slumped against a wall, covered in blood. I stared at the image. He was barely alive. If he died now, I couldn't take his company. I reached for my phone. I dialed the number. Get to Ye Shen's office. Now, in Ye Shen's office, 2 masked soldiers stood over him. The mission failed, one said. The boss is disappointed. Ye Shen lay face down on his desk, blood pooling around him. Give me one more chance, he begged. The soldier crouched over him. There are no second chances for losers. The door exploded. The senior fighter burst through with a gun in each hand, blue energy blazing from both. The junior fighter dropped from above, her chain weapon cracking through the air with a flash of gold light. One soldier took the full hit and flew across the room. The chain whip caught another and slammed him into the far wall. The last one grabbed his chest, trying to breathe. Who are you people? The senior fighter kept her pistol aimed at his head. We work for Boss Yi. Then I walked in. Ye Shen was on the floor behind his own desk, bleeding everywhere. 3 against 1 doesn't seem very fair, I said. The masked soldiers still had their weapons up. Ye Shen sat in his own blood, too weak to move. I couldn't help but smile. Ye Shen lifted his head, blood dripping from every cut. Ye Fan, he whispered. The 3 soldiers shifted into position, ready for another fight. But the junior fighter stretched her chain between them, and I stood right behind her. The senior fighter aimed her blue pistol at the last man standing. Ye Shen stared up at me, confused. Why did you save me? I crouched down and grabbed his chin. You still owe me, Ye Shen. Dying now would be too cheap. I looked him right in the eyes and smiled. What a waste that would be. Tears ran down his bloody face. I have nothing left. Please, just let me go. Let you go? I said. I stood up and let the smile settle. Sure. The next day, I sat in front of a streaming camera. Ye Shen stood behind me in his suit. Everyone, I want to introduce a new friend. I pointed at him over my shoulder. Come on, Ye Shen. Say hello. Behind me, his fists were squeezed so tight his knuckles went white. I leaned back in the chair and looked up at him. Go ahead. Ye Shen shut his eyes and forced the words out. I, Ye Shen, from today serve Ye Fan. He is my boss. Then he bowed in front of the camera, deep low for the whole world to see. He looked straight into the lens. Ye Fan is my boss, he said again, like the words burned his throat. I leaned back, satisfied. The chat was going wild. The next morning, Ye Shen stood in front of my desk with bandages on both cheeks. I have a job for you, I told him. He stared at me, waiting. I pushed a movie script across the desk. The cover had a female warrior on it. His jaw dropped. You want me to play the female lead? You are trying to humiliate me, he shouted, his face turning red. I shrugged. You don't have to do it. I placed my phone on the desk between us. The livestream clip was still on the screen. Ye Shen calling me boss. I can post this again, you know. His whole body shook with anger. Ye Fan, I will kill you for this. The movie broke every record on opening day, 1 billion at the box office. Ye Shen walked into my office still in full costume, silver wig, long pink dress, the whole thing. He looked like he wanted to cry. Are you satisfied now, Ye Fan? You did well, I told him. For the next movie, you play the villain. His eyes went wide. A female villain? I rested my chin on my hand. With cat ears. He spun around and marched for the door. I am done with your games. Yi Chang handed me a cup of coffee and watched him leave. What happened to him? She asked. Got too deep into the role, I said. I turned back to the screen. The numbers were still climbing, but Ye Shen was yesterday's problem. I had something bigger planned. The next day, I stood on a stretch of dead land at the edge of High City. The ground was cracked in every direction. I held my book and a roll of blueprints over a hole in the dirt, a full source energy education system, everything a student would need. Holographic screens appeared over the empty ground, training halls, practice rooms, the full academy design rising before my eyes. I knelt down and pressed my hands into the dry earth. I spread everything out, textbooks, devices, equipment plans, training designs. I held the finished manual to my chest. The system was complete. Weeks later, I stood behind a podium in a suit. Before today, only rich families could afford source energy training for their children. If you want to learn, I told them, I will give you the chance. Hundreds of students in uniform filled the auditorium row after row. A boy in the front row jumped up clapping, his eyes bright. A girl covered her mouth with both hands, tears running down her face. The kids around her were cheering. Their voices kept going, louder, stronger, filling every corner of the hall. 2 boys near the front threw their arms up and screamed until their faces turned red. One of them was shaking, tears running down his cheeks, but he would not stop cheering. After the ceremony, a boy came up to me. His clothes were torn and dirty, his eyes red from crying. Teacher Yi, I awaken my ability. You changed my life, he said. I put my hand on his shoulder and smiled. No, your own hard work changed you. But the academy was only the first step. I went back to the dead land with my book and a test tube. If this soil could grow anything, could it also create life itself? I pressed the book and the tube into the cracked ground. Red energy exploded upward from the earth, so bright I had to close my eyes. When the light faded, I was holding a small bottle of golden liquid. The source energy regeneration medicine, it worked. The following week, I stood in the center of a national press conference hall. Cameras everywhere. I held the bottle up. This is the source energy regeneration medicine. It can regrow what the body has lost. It can give a dying person 1 more year of life. The entire audience stood at once. A reporter jumped to his feet. Boss Yi is this really true? A woman behind him called out. Where is the clinical data? Instead of answering, I pressed a button on the control panel beside me. I held the medicine up 1 more time. Let me show you. A volunteer sat in the chair next to me. His right leg ended at the knee, replaced by metal. He drank the medicine. And right there, in front of every camera in the room, his missing leg began to grow back, bone first, then muscle, then skin. From today, I told them this medicine will be given free to every poor patient in the world. The room went wild. Fists in the air, cheering, cameras flashing from every direction. The next day, I was walking out of the Yi Group building when Wei Wei ran straight at me. She grabbed onto my jacket, face wet with tears. Ye Fan, I was wrong. I caught her by the shoulders and pushed her back. Miss Shen. My voice went cold. Watch your place. There is nothing between us anymore. She looked up at me, eyes red and swollen. I was tricked back then. I never wanted to leave you. Can you please forgive me? She dropped to her knees and reached for my jacket again. Please, Yifan. I looked down at her and let myself smile. Funny, you forgot what you called me, a worthless fruit seller. She shut her eyes and cried harder. I was stupid back then. I didn't know anything. Footsteps behind me. Yitang came down the stairs just as Wei Wei grabbed my hand. Yifan, it's time for the meeting. Yitang slipped her arm through mine and we walked inside together. Wei Wei stared after us. Her mouth opened but nothing came out. If she has something to say, Yitang said with a small smile, she can make an appointment. I smiled back. Behind us, alone in the empty square, Wei Wei screamed, you can't do this to me, Yifan. That evening, Su Zhongshan sat at his desk with a cup of tea. Yitang stood beside him in a white dress, hands folded. Yitang, he said, you have been spending a lot of time with Yifan. Her eyes went wide. Grandfather, why are you suddenly asking about this? He leaned back in his chair. I am old, but not blind. You go to see him every other day. Did you think I would not notice? A blush crept up her neck. She looked down and let herself smile. He is a good person. Zhang Shan's face became serious. This boy's identity is no ordinary thing. Why do you say that? Yitang asked. The day the wind dragon appeared at the banquet, he said. I knew. A descendant of the Ye family had come. Yifan acts too much like him. He turned toward the window, his voice quieter now. Too much like a man I knew a long time ago. Who was he? Yitang asked. An old friend of your great-grandfather, Zhang Shan replied. He fell quiet. Sunlight touched his face, and for a long moment he was far away in his memories. I went to the dead land at sunset. The old tree stood alone on the cracked earth, the only living thing for miles. I pressed my hand against the bark. My master once told me that grandfather spent his whole life under this tree. Grandfather, I whispered, what was your connection to this place? Something was buried at the roots. I dug until my fingers hit metal, a rusted box, heavy with age. I wiped the dirt off and pulled the lid open. Inside was a single folded letter. The paper was brown and thin. I could almost see his face, that warm, gentle smile he always carried. Little Fan, the letter read, if you are reading this, the land has accepted you. Our mission is to restore our lost civilization. I stood beneath the tree holding the letter to my chest. So this was what he gave his life for, and now it was mine to carry. My eyes burned, and for the first time in a long while, I could not hold the tears back. Then something settled inside me. If I could use this land's power, I could bring back everything that was lost. I pulled a small bronze fragment from my pocket, a piece from the ancient Sanjingdui ruins. If this land could grow medicine, could it also bring back what belonged to our past? I pressed the fragment into the dirt. Golden light spread out from it in every direction. A bronze tree rose from the ground, tall, perfect, covered in golden birds. The sacred tree of Sanjingdui whole again. I stared at it. My heart was beating so hard I could feel it in my throat. I pulled out my phone and called Elder Zhuang right away. When I brought the tree to his home, Zhuang just stood there and stared. This is the bronze sacred tree. His voice cracked. He could barely get the words out. He walked around it, checking every line, every curve, the patterns, the craft. It all matches the original. He activated his scanning device and went silent for a long moment. Even the source energy waves are exactly the same. He held the tree close to his face, still not believing it. How did you get this? That part does not matter, I said. What matters is we can bring the lost ancient relics back. I already had a plan forming in my head. I will create them. You announce them through your channels as new archaeological discoveries. The world sees them as history coming back to light, I said. Nobody needs to know the truth. Zhuang smiled and nodded. Good, let's do it. Over the next few days, I returned to the land again and again. An ancient painting rose from the dirt first. Then a full scroll, a pair of guardian lions, and more. Each relic rising whole and perfect from the cracked earth. The story hit every news channel in the country. The bronze sacred tree was on national television. In a dark room filled with porcelain and old relics, the Dark Star Elder sat watching the broadcast. His collection surrounded him, but his eyes were fixed on the screen. His gaze narrowed behind his glasses. Old friend, he murmured. What secret did you leave behind? That same night, two masked soldiers dragged Wei Wei through a heavy wooden door. Who are you? She screamed. Let me go. The Dark Star Elder sat on a leather couch, cigar in hand. He waved lazily. Let her go. The guard stepped back. Wei Wei stood between them, chest heaving, fists tight. Who are you? She demanded. Why did you take me? He blew smoke into the air and smiled. I am someone who wants to help you. She froze. Help me? He tilted his head. You hate Yifan, don't you? Her fist tightened until blood dripped down her fingers. I can help you take everything back, he said. His smile widened. I can even make him disappear forever. Her eyes flashed red and blood ran down her cheeks like tears. I want him dead. The Dark Star Elder leaned back into the leather and let his cigar burn. This was exactly what he needed. He stood and walked toward the far wall. But I have a condition. An old photograph hung there. Two young men standing side by side in the sun. One wore a familiar hat. He reached up and touched the glass. Find out Yufan's secret. What power does he use to grow those relics? Deal, Wei Wei said without a pause. The Dark Star Elder turned back to his collection and smiled to himself. Brother, he whispered, what you refused to give me all those years ago, your grandson will hand it over for you. I was still out on the dead land when the sky turned black. A wall of dark smoke rolled in from nowhere. I narrowed my eyes. Who's there? Wei Wei stepped out of the darkness, and behind her a line of soldiers burning with red energy. Wei Wei. I stared at her. This was not the same woman who had been crying at my feet that morning. Wei Wei smiled at me through the dark like she had already won. What do you want, Wei Wei? She pointed straight at me and screamed at her soldiers. Kill him. I let out a small laugh. Did she really think I came here alone? I raised my hand and snapped my fingers. The junior fighter appeared first, both guns drawn and ready. Behind her, a swordsman with silver hair stepped forward, blue energy burning along his blade. He held the sword perfectly still, not a single word, just cold focus. Then a fighter with a spear landed beside them, already in position. The senior fighter aimed her gun and smiled. Good to see you again, bossy. 5 million each, that was the deal. And every one of them answered the call. My people moved fast. The first soldier went down before he could even lift his weapon. In seconds, every one of Wei Wei's soldiers lay flat on the ground. She stood alone in the middle of them. A chain caught her before she could run, wrapping tight around her body. She hit the dirt face first, covered in dust and scratches. I crouched over her and pressed her down. Who sent you? I will never tell you, she screamed, eyes full of hate. It did not take long. She broke down crying on the ground. I'll talk. His name is Shen Baichuan. Tears poured down her face as she choked out the name again. Shen Baichuan. Shen Baichuan. I had never heard the name before, but the fear in her voice told me enough. Later that night, Yi Shen walked onto the dead land. He was beaten up, and he moved with care. He stood beside me and told me everything. I was working for Baichuan too. There is an organization called the Dark Star. If anyone in this city had information on a secret group like that, it would be the Su family. So the next day, I sat in Zhongshan's study. I need your help looking into a man named Shen Baichuan. Zhang Shen froze with his tea halfway to his mouth. How do you know that name? Wei Wei said it herself. Baichuan is trying to kill me. He set the cup down slowly. Yi Tang stood behind us, listening. Ye Fan, was your grandfather named Ye Changgang? That caught me off guard. You knew my grandfather? We were the closest of friends, Zheng Shan said, his voice low and serious. He stood and looked down at me. Your grandfather was the only guardian of the source. Guardian? I repeated the word before I even understood it. His mission was to protect every secret connected to the source, Zheng Shan explained. This secret decides whether our planet lives or dies. The weight of those words pressed down on me. Was the secret he guarded that piece of dead land? Long ago, Baichuan and your grandfather were as close as brothers, Zheng Shan continued. He lifted his tea, pausing before the hard part of the story. Baichuan started selling source energy items on the black market. Your grandfather refused. Their friendship ended that day. Zheng Shan took a slow sip. Then your grandfather suddenly died. My fist pressed hard against my knees. Every muscle in my hands went tight, and after that Baichuan vanished. My voice was steady, but inside I was burning. I will find the truth. Zheng Shan studied my face. What do you plan to do? I let myself grin. We set bait and draw the snake into the open. I pulled out a rolled-up scroll and held it in front of them. Yi Tang took the scroll carefully while Zheng Shan watched from behind his desk. He unrolled it, an ancient-looking map covered in drawn paths and old symbols. His eyes went wide. This shows the location of the root of civilization. Find it and source energy will never dry up, I said. Of course the map is fake. Yi Tang understood at once. You want to use this to make Baichuan's people come to us. Grandfather's letter said the root of civilization was the most important thing he ever protected, I explained. Baichuan has wanted it for years. He will not be able to stay away. The next day I stood at a podium in front of every news channel in the country. Today I will reveal the ancient site of the root of civilization. The room exploded. Reporters jumped from their seats, hands in the air, shouting over each other. Is the site real? A woman with a microphone demanded. I stared straight into the cameras. All I needed was for the right person to be watching. Yu Tang found me after the conference. The news is everywhere. The whole city is talking about it. Good, now we wait. Are you sure he will come? She asked. This was the thing my grandfather cared about most. Baichuan will not pass it up. And Elder Zhuang's team? I asked. She confirmed the task force was already in place. Everything was ready. Now I would see exactly who came for it. The scroll went on public display. Visitors crowded around the glass case, staring at the ancient paper inside. Security moved through the crowd, visible guards in front, hidden soldiers in the back. The scroll sat under the lights, energy flickering above it. The whole room watched it like it was made of gold. And the glass shattered. A woman broke through the case and reached for the map. Ambush. The hidden soldiers swarmed in from every corner of the room. I walked through the chaos with guards on both sides of me. I grabbed one of the masked men by the collar. Where is Baichuan? His eyes went wide under the mask. How do you know about Master Shen? He can track me down, I said. Why would he think I cannot do the same? The man laughed through the blood on his teeth. You will never catch him. He never planned to come himself. That hit harder than I expected. The old man did not take the bait. He only sent his cheapest men, people he could afford to throw away. A voice crackled through my radio. Yi Fan, the voice continued. Have you ever asked yourself why your grandfather really died? He was not fighting one man. My free hand dropped to my side and closed into a fist. It is a world bigger than you can imagine, the voice said. I pressed the radio closer, jaw tight, every word sinking in. So it was true. My grandfather did not just die, he was murdered. I went back to the dead land alone, carrying a tracking device from Zhuang's lab. Baichuan, you think you are hidden. But nobody hides from me forever. I cut my finger and let the blood drip onto the metal surface, then pressed it into the soil. I pushed both hands flat into the dirt. This land was connected to me now. Through the source I could trace anything that had ever touched it. I focused harder and forced the growth to speed up. A flower bloomed from the cracked ground, purple petals holding a crystal fruit, clear as water. My eyes locked onto it. Found you. I lifted the crystal fruit gently. Inside it was everything. Every trace of Baichuan's network. Back at Zhengshan's study, I set the fruit on the desk. It projected a map of light, red lines reaching across every continent. Yu Chang stared at it with wide eyes. These are all illegal trade routes. Zhengshan stood beside her. Every single line leads overseas. This is Baichuan's entire underground network. Tell Elder Zhuang it is time to close the net, I said. Across the city, in his dark room full of old porcelain, the Dark Star Elder sat in his chair with a glass of red wine. The soldier walked in and bowed. Master Shen, all 12 lines have been shut down. The soldier's voice shook. He could barely finish the sentence. The elder threw his wineglass against the wall and stood up. Useless, he screamed, his eyes burning red behind his glasses. Yajing looked at her phone and smiled. All 12 routes are sealed. Baichuan's losses are massive. This is only the beginning, I said. The doors to Zhengshan's private study cracked open, and a thin line of light spilled through. Zhengshan stepped through the doorway. Follow me, he said. Yu Chang and I stood in his study, a room I had never seen before. He opened a hidden panel on the wall. Behind it was a world map, covered in red pins. These are the areas richest in source energy, Zhengshan said. Every pin marked a location the Dark Star Society controlled. Dark Star is not a local problem. They operate across the world and control 30% of all source energy. Even Yi Tang looked shaken by that number. And the secret of your dead land, Zhengshan continued, is what they want most. The land? I leaned forward. The source energy there is already drying up. Zhengshan opened an old book. It is not just the land. The entire planet's source energy is running out. I took the book from his hands. How long do we have? At the current speed, he said, 100 years at most. After that, all powers disappear. Society falls apart. The root of civilization is our last hope. I held the book tighter. It was my grandfather's notebook. The root of civilization. The last chance to restore source energy. And it is also the thing Baichuan wants most. Zhengshan said. Yu Teng glanced at me with quiet concern. Zhengshan held up a golden token, the Su family seal. He offered it to me without hesitation. I stood still for a long moment. From today, the Su family's resources are yours to command, he said. Finish what your grandfather started. I took the notebook to the dead land and sat alone to read. The handwriting grew messier toward the end. He was rushing like he had found something terrible. The pages were old and burned at the edges, but the words were still clear. Then the book began to glow, and something pulled me in. A vision, a living heart, burning deep inside the earth. I pulled back from the book. The source was alive. Not a mineral, not a stone, a living thing. The notes explained everything. Source energy was an immune system sent here by an ancient civilization. Its purpose was simple: protect the planet and keep it stable. But humans treated it as fuel and drained it faster than it could recover. I turned to the cover. Ye Changging, my grandfather's name. On the next page, a drawing of a great tree with roots spreading deep. Beside it, 2 words, Heavenly Palace. Root of civilization. The real root was hidden inside the heavenly palace. If we could restart it, source energy would flow again across the whole world. I stood up. An old photograph fell from between the pages. Two young men standing side by side under a tree. One of them was my grandfather. Tears came before I could stop them. They would not stop. The other man in the photo that had to be Baichuan. They were smiling like brothers. I wiped my eyes and let the anger settle in. Grandfather, I said to the empty sky, I will find the root. I promise you. Days later, we entered an underground tunnel carved from ancient stone. Glowing symbols covered every wall. Elder Zhuang walked between Zhongshan and Yitang. This passage is at least 3,000 years old, he said. The air is thick with source energy, Yitang said, looking around. And it gets stronger the deeper we go, Zhongshan added. At the end of the tunnel stood a massive gate, covered in glowing ancient script from floor to ceiling. Elder Zhuang looked up and his voice broke. This is the heavenly palace. Zhongshan turned to me and held out his hand. At the dragon banquet you gave me something, now I return it. In his palm lay an ancient bronze key. I took it, and my hand shook. Thank you, Grandpa Su. I walked to the golden door and raised the key toward the lock. The doors split apart and golden light flooded the tunnel. The heavenly palace was supposed to be destroyed, Yitang said. But it was whole, a vast chamber, and at its center, a giant sphere covered in tree roots floating in golden light. Source energy repaired it, I said quietly. We stepped inside together. The floor beneath us pulsed with glowing circles and ancient symbols. The walls were painted with murals, the birth of the planet, the rise and fall of civilizations, the flow of source energy across the ages. One mural showed a meteor crashing into Earth from deep space. My eyes went wide. So the source was truly summoned here, sent from somewhere beyond the stars. Then the soldiers raised their weapons. Something was wrong. A figure stood alone at the foot of the root, waiting. He turned and spread his arms. Welcome, Baichuan said, to the place your grandfather gave his life to protect. Zhengshan's jaw locked tight. The lead soldier gripped his weapon. Baichuan had been waiting inside this whole time. He smiled at me like a man who had already won. I have waited 50 years for this door to open, he said and laughed. Behind him, rows of masked fighters stepped forward. Dark Star soldiers, dozens of them. Dark Star, Elder Zhuang said under his breath. Our soldiers aimed their weapons at once. At least 30, Yitang said. All of them A rank or higher. Baichuan stood on the stone steps above us. I knew you would come eventually. The root of civilization floated in silence behind him. That is the root, I said. Baichuan glanced at the glowing sphere beside him. Your grandfather had the same look when he first saw it. He walked across the chamber floor. He wanted to use it to fix the world. How noble. But it was always meant for more than that, he shouted. It could rule the world. My grandfather treated you like a brother, I said, and you killed him. Baichuan smiled. He stood in my way, so he had to die. Something inside me went cold and sharp. My fist tightened until my nails dug into skin. Yitang and I walked forward together. Baichuan spread his arms beneath the root. Surrender. In here, I am the master. The root erupted, bolts of energy shot out in every direction, splitting the air. Then let us see who the real master is. Power rushed through the floor and a golden circle lit up beneath my feet. Baichuan launched into the air. His blue energy crashed against my golden blast. He landed with his arms wide. 50 years, he said. I spent 50 years cracking the heavenly palace's system. He leaned close, his eyes bright. This device does not just repair source energy, it can also run in reverse. Reverse. The word hit me like a fist. It can drain every last drop of source energy on the planet, he said, and bring it all to me. A glowing map appeared behind him. Dark star nodes placed on every continent, just waiting for the core to start. You betrayed everything my grandfather believed in, I said. You betrayed the whole world. His eyes narrowed behind his glasses. Betrayal? We stood on opposite sides of the root, the thing my grandfather died for, and the thing Baichuan would burn the world to own. Your grandfather was the real traitor, Baichuan said. We found this place together. Source energy could make me a god, Baichuan shouted, his golden eyes burning with hunger. He jabbed his finger at my chest. But your grandfather called it the heritage of all people. He stood in my way. He stood alone in the center of that ancient hall, as if the whole world already belonged to him. Something snapped inside me. I lunged forward, but Yitang caught my arm. Don't let him provoke you, she said. He is buying time. I stopped. She was right. Something was pulling at the energy around us. I could feel it in my chest. Elder Zhuang's face went white. The device is draining the heavenly palace's source energy reserves. Baichuan spread his arms beneath the root. Too late. One last step, and every drop of source energy on this planet is mine. The root was already spinning faster, pulling energy in from every direction. I saw it again, the living heart of the earth bleeding, weakening with every second. The sphere turned red and exploded with power, tearing the chamber apart around us. Tears ran down Elder Zhuang's face. If the palace is drained, the whole city collapses. Millions will die. Dark Star soldiers blocked my path, fire behind them. I ran straight at them anyway. Yitang's energy flared gold. Every one of them is A rank or higher, she called out. Leave them to me. I broke through and ran for the root. An invisible wall hit me and threw me flat on the ground. A barrier right at the base of the sphere. Baichuan looked down at me and crossed his arms. Your grandfather failed in this exact same spot. Only the root's own power can break this shield, he said. That is why even I could not pass it for 50 years. I lay there staring up at the barrier, and something began to form in my mind. But none of that matters now, Baichuan said. The reverse charging has already begun. He opened his arms wide between Yading and me. Soon, all of you will be nothing more than stepping stones for my new world. I looked at Yitang, and the thought hit me all at once. Grandfather, I finally understood. What you protected your whole life was never about special power. It was about me. My blood was the key, connected to the earth, connected to the root. I closed my eyes and let everything inside me pour out. Golden light ripped through the chamber floor and swallowed me whole. Energy burned through every bone in my body, remaking me from the inside. Yitang screamed my name from somewhere far away. No, her voice cracked. A tear ran down my cheek, but I was not afraid. For the first time in my life, I knew exactly where I belonged. Light swallowed the chamber. A red symbol the size of the sky opened above me, and I could feel myself becoming something else. Golden lightning poured from my chest and reached for the root. The red ring around the sphere cracked and fell away, and the root turned blue, calm, soft, and alive again. I felt the mountain above me break open as golden light shot into the sky. Source energy flowed back into the earth, filling every broken crack in the stone. Somewhere on the surface, the first flower began to open. Deep underground, a dark star machine was hit by the wave and went dead. Under the sea, another of Baichuan's bases lost power. A whole facility blew apart as the stolen energy ripped through it on its way home. Zhengshan stood in the ruined chamber, tears streaming down his face. Old friend, can you see this? He whispered. Your grandson did it. Baichuan's eyes went wide. How? He whispered. How is this possible? Energy wrapped around his body and pulled him backward. He grabbed at his chest, choking. A cage of blue light closed around him, the root's own power turned against its thief. He dropped to his knees. No, he said. No. His shaking hand pulled a small device from his coat, a backup controller. He held it up, breathing hard. I still have a chance. Yu Tang's fist came in fast, wrapped in golden light. It hit him across the face and sent sparks flying. He staggered back but kept his grip on the controller. His face twisted. His teeth locked together so hard they could break. She hit him again, and this time he screamed. Baichuan crashed into a pillar and the controller flew from his hand. It hit the floor and shattered into pieces. His last chance, gone. All around the chamber, Dark Star soldiers were going down. One by one, they were pinned to the ground. The squad leader looked over the scene with steady eyes. Handcuffs clicked shut around a Dark Star fighter's wrists. The last of them were bound and brought to their knees. They held Baichuan's men down near the root. Blood marked the stone where the fighting had ended. Baichuan lay face down in his own blood. 50 years, he whispered. I spent 50 years. All of it destroyed, he screamed into the floor. A soldier dragged him down the hallway. Blood trailed behind them like a red line drawn across the stone. Yu Tang ran forward, screaming Yifan's name. Zheng Shan and the others stood frozen behind her. She reached for the golden light where his body had been, but her fingers passed right through. Her hand closed on nothing, just golden particles breaking apart and floating away. Don't go, she whispered. Tears fell through the fading glow. She stood alone beneath the great blue circle in the ceiling, small and still against the ancient walls. Her tears would not stop. They had no reason to. I looked down at her and smiled. I did not know how I was still here, but I was. Don't cry. Don't leave me, she begged. I stood in the golden light with flowers growing at my feet. As long as the land exists, I told her, I am here. She fell to the floor and wept into the cold stone. Zheng Shan stood behind her. There were no words for this kind of loss. He said as long as the land exists, he is still here, she whispered, as if saying it could make it true. She cupped her hands together and tiny golden sparks drifted between her fingers. I can feel your warmth. They walked out into the sunrise. Yitang, Zheng Shan, Elder Zhuang. She carried something small and warm in her hands. In her palm sat a handful of soil, and from it grew a tiny golden sprout. The root of civilization still alive. Elder Zhuang stared at it, speechless. The root still exists, he said at last. In a dry, empty field under an open sky, Yitang knelt and poured water over a small golden plant. The golden leaves carried ancient symbols, and a small sphere of light sat between them, warm and steady. A figure of golden light stood before her. I told you, he said. As long as the land exists, I exist. Tears ran down her face, but this time she was smiling. You came back. Their hands found each other across the dry earth and held on tight. I stood beside her in a field of golden wheat, the sun warm on our backs. I was real again. Her hand was warm in mine. The sun set over the healing land, and small golden lights glowed where new life pushed through the cracks. But far beyond the sky, past the clouds and the stars, a stone covered in ancient symbols drifted alone in the dark. Its markings began to glow one by one. A second root of civilization, and it was waiting to be found.